Hello and welcome to Fearless DIY Music. My name is Tristan Lass, and today I'd like to talk about drum sets and whether or not there's something you should consider for your creative space. Let's begin by talking about the reasons why many cannot have a drum set at all. 1, they're cost prohibitive. 2, lack of space. 3, noise thresholds that cannot be surpassed in whatever area you are working. And then there's also, of course, the fact that in the box, drum programs and things like that are just so good now. So having an acoustic kit almost feels like it's a retrograde thing. I have my kit because I've had it forever. When I was in band scenarios and when I had my full analog studio in Portland, I needed a full kit because most of the time drummers, didn't want to drag their own stuff around, or their drum sets were not properly tuned or in bad mechanical condition. So I always kept my Mapex kit here in prime, ready to record condition at all times, and I would just keep it mic'd up and ready to go. So I have my drums by default. When I moved into this smaller space, if I had not had a drum kit, I probably would not have bought one. But all of that aside, I am so grateful that I do have a full drum kit at my disposal. And I want to discuss the merits of having one for anybody who is, recording music or doing production work that requires drums. Now, there's the obvious, you can just program with the drum machine. But there are things that an acoustic kit can bring to the table that no drum machine can. The in-the-room sounds, I know that there are tons of great drum samples out there, and it's endless. It's endless the sounds you can get. But when you custom tune your own kit and you have your own array of cymbals that you know how they react in the room and you love the sound of, you add instant character to anything that you're recording because those sounds are unique. They are not part of a plugin. They're not part of a virtual kit. These are actual sounds in the room, and I'm all about trying to capture sounds in the room. So let's pretend like all the previous criteria have been met, and it's like, I'm considering getting a drum kit. Well, at that point, it's really easy to kind of like go, oh, okay, just go buy any random kit. But you want to get a decent quality kit. This is a Mapex. This kit originally retailed for around, $1,500. I didn't skimp on hardware and cymbals either when I put it together. So a drum kit does cost some money, and you do want to spend the money if you're going to go ahead and commit to that. Now, all of that being said, let's say you've got the space, you've got everything set up, you have purchased a drum kit, you have figured out, how to tune it and all that kind of stuff. And I'm assuming that I'm speaking here mainly to people who are not primarily drummers. I am not a drummer by default at all. I took drum lessons for a time so that I would know how to record them and how to step into a session if I had to lay down a basic beat if a drummer didn't show up or if there was no other drummer available. And then when I began recording all of my music solo, I didn't want to just use programmed drums. I wanted to be able to play the kit myself so that I could have that, natural sound on my own recordings. So that's how I arrived at why I enjoy having an acoustic kit. I am a guitarist, I'm a bass player, but I also am, to some extent, a drummer. And thinking like a drummer is really easy to do when you're using programs because you can just go, oh, okay, and you can move the beats around and stuff. But when you actually are learning limb independence and being able to play the kit, it's a whole different story, and it adds a whole different level to what you're trying to achieve and what you will end up with your end result. Now, let's get into the practical application of having a drum kit in your space. The way that I use it is that on some songs, if there are kind of a loose groove to them, or if I don't want to be attached to the grid, I will record just to a click and use an acoustic kit to do the drum track. That happens a certain percentage of the time. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is where people who are maybe newbies to drums, who are newbies to drums, or who are primarily singer-songwriters or guitar players or keyboard players or composers or whatever, you can use a kit as coloration in a very, very effective way. And this is the way that I mostly track drums at this point in time, since I do not have time to sit and practice and keep my chops up. I will create rudimentary beats. I call them sophisticated click tracks, where I will do the kick, the snare, and the hi-hat using a plugin, and then using a sequencer. So that way I have the song fleshed out, I have it all mapped, I have the time changes, I have the tempo changes, all programmed in. Then I will sit down after I have tracked, like, let's say some basic rhythm tracks like the bass and the rhythm guitar, and then I will sit down at the acoustic kit, get it all mic'd up, and I will add all the tom work. I will add the, if there are additional like flams and ghost note things on the snares, I will do all of that kind of nuanced work on the snare. And then I do all of my cymbals. And that way you get kind of this hybrid. It's like the drum machine will keep you, accurate. And I always, use the humanizer factor in this. Turn up your humanizer so that it's not completely perfect. And then when you play along with it and overdub your acoustic drums over your program drums, you can get some amazing results. And you don't have to be a phenomenal drummer. Like for me, one of the biggest problems is if I've got to sit and hold down a basic rock beat, let's just say it's just straight ahead, there's not a whole lot going on, it's just a basic beat. Why would I sit and beat my head against the wall and do 100 takes of that and have it turn out not so great when I can just program it? But for the turnarounds, the fills, the big moments where there's going to be like, empty space, you can sit and use your acoustic kit and your cymbals to really add life to your drum tracks. And that's kind of like where the point of this video is to kind of reimagine what you can use a kit for. And to do this, you don't need to even have a full drum kit. If you are interested in pursuing something like this, you could start off as simple as just buying 2 or 3 rack toms, a little, a handful of cymbals, maybe a ride and a couple crashes. And even if you don't know how to play drums at all, but you know how to program drums, you can feel where all those bits and pieces would be. You program your basic beat, then you can go, add in your toms, add in all your cymbals. And I swear, it'll make your recording sound so good because you'll have those acoustic sounds in there mixed in along with having that solid to the grid beat that will keep you on track and keep your track in time. So that's just an idea that I think that a lot of people, I remember I was talking to a fellow musician about 2 years ago, and they were asking me, they were just like, wow, how do you find time to sit and practice drums when you have all this other stuff going on to do your tracks? And I explained to them how I did it in this hybrid way, and they were just like, oh my goodness, I never would have thought of that. And I think it's something that maybe a lot of people wouldn't even consider. So you don't even have to buy, like I said, a full drum kit. You could just, floor toms, a couple floor toms, a couple cymbals, a rack tom, and then you can even get, just kind of make like, a percussion kit, and kind of the Sheila E. thing where you can just even just stand at it and just add all those little bits and pieces. And it really will add to your recordings. It'll make things more organic. And it'll give you that sense of satisfaction that, hey, I'm not a drummer, but I played drums on my, I played acoustic drums on my recording and it sounds really cool. Check it out. And because the one thing that I am always usually very dissatisfied with plugins are cymbal sounds. I don't think there's much of a substitute for having a good set of cymbals at your disposal to really get, and then just the touch, the feel of it, when you actually hit it, getting all those nuances is really difficult to do with a plugin. So anyway, I would like to thank everybody who has made it this far in the video. I would like to thank all the new subscribers who are out there. I really appreciate it. We're closing in on 100. I hope by the time this video airs, we are past 100. And onwards and upwards. As going forward, I do have a lot of plans for the channel that are exciting. They're really neat ideas, and I want to see the comment section grow so that we can all start kind of throwing in together. And in the future, I would like to do a little bit of live streaming, and I would also like to bring in some new segments and new bits for these actual videos and the content that I want to provide. So anyway, I thank you so much for watching. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit like. All of it helps. And I'll see you next time with more content.